Formerly served in the US State Department as Senior Policy Advisor for the Middle East peace process. Thanks for joining me, Laura. Tonight you were at an event at the Israeli Embassy in Washington where the US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan was speaking. Was there anything that stood out from you about what he said?
There was a real sense of commemoration, but no closure. There's no light at the end of Hamas tunnels. And for those of us in the diplomatic circles who are trying to find a way forward, it has been a year of frustration and setbacks. A couple of notable points. National Security Advisor Sullivan said that for Israel, and maybe for all of us working on the region, the real challenge is to take some of the tactical successes that they've had on the battlefield and turn them into a long-term strategy for success, for securing the peace. And I think one thing that he's talking about is that kind of grand mega deal that the administration was working on before Hamas attacked Israel 1 year ago today, to create a normalization deal between Israel and Jordan, and then a defense pact between the United States and Saudi Arabia. It was kind of seen as a win-win for moderates in the region, and look where we are today.
That's right. There was a lot of hope around that Saudi pact. What's the role for the US to play and for Washington to play in the months ahead? We've heard, for example, Benjamin Netanyahu saying that his country will continue to fight until his war goals are met. What's Washington's role here?
Well, again, just to quote Jake Sullivan today, he said it's a hard thing to push past hopelessness, because it's very easy if you just focus on the region to kind of descend into gloom. I mean, whether it's the news coming out of the Middle East with, more rockets and missiles despite a year of fighting and bloodshed, just to college campuses. I mean, I have two kids at Columbia University, and they said to me that it was a parade of hate today with both sides, whether you were pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, just screaming at each other. So I think the role for diplomacy is to be creative. And one opportunity, you could call it a plastic moment, is in Lebanon, which has been home to not only a proxy of Iran, but the proxy of Iran, Hezbollah, with Nasrallah, with the leadership decapitated, and those stockpiles of missiles degraded, and day by day, Israel's blowing more of them up. There could be an opportunity for Lebanon to reclaim its country, not to be occupied by Israel or Hezbollah or Iran, frankly, but the Lebanese people. So there's an opportunity there to help broker that. We have Amos Hochstein, who's a senior trusted administration official who's tirelessly trying to make that happen. And then on the military front, I mean, as we think about retaliation we're sort of back and forth with Iran, this axis of resistance and what we think of as a coalition of coexistence. The United States could consider taking a real hard hit at the Houthis, who've been disrupting shipping in the Red Sea now for far too long, and it might be an opportunity now for the United States to strike back.
And of course, we've got in terms of the vision or the way that the world is seeing Israel now, 1 year on from these attacks, how do you think that has changed?
Well, it's Ambassador Herzog, Mike Herzog, who's the Israeli ambassador to the United States, said himself, the Israel of today is not the same Israel that there was on October 7th. He didn't go into detail about what that meant, but I can tell you one thing it means for those of us watching from the outside is, although they might be winning the ground war, they have been losing the story war. I mean, Israel, whether it's respecting Israel's deterrence, which they've kind of been clawing their way back to reestablishing, or just their kind of moral high ground, which they always took great pride in, of having a kind of, I can imagine that some of your viewers are laughing as they say this, but Israelis genuinely believe that they had a kind of code of purity of arms, and that's just in tatters today.
Laura Blumenfeld, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.